can't see Jason. We must see him.
You don't want to see him. Here, this is what he looks like. Look at this. This is what he looks like.
Oh, that is what he looks like. You got
That is accurate.
That's it. Perfect. Mike, just introduce yourself. Kind of tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do for the volleyball community, and then we'll ask you a few questions and get some topics going here.
I'm Mike Vaughan. I'm a volleyball referee. Been refereeing for about maybe 15 years. I got some kids that are playing juniors volleyball. Been a long time player. Still play some 9-man volleyball.
For the most part, you've refereed at every level, right? I'm assuming at nationals, other than international at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've done everything from 10-year-old juniors volleyball up through the AVP.
Awesome. And I think one of the things that I know with this whole coronavirus thing's going on is the clubs, the teams, the colleges, they've all been hugely affected by this. But one of the things I haven't heard a lot of people talk about is how the referees are affected by this. A lot of officials rely on that extra income, and they're not able to work matches now. So tell us a little bit about some of the stories that you've heard and your personal experience.
I mean, me personally, I've probably missed, probably 15 college men's matches, a bunch of tournaments, qualifiers. I haven't done anything in a couple weeks now. Missing out on just the camaraderie of doing it, getting to see everybody. You know, obviously going to miss out on some bucks. I've heard some people saying they've missed or they're projected to miss out on almost $10,000.
Oh, wow.
So that's your argument if you're ever going to say referees are overpaid.
Yeah.
But so these people are grinding. I mean, people are working high school game, right? Then they're going to go try to do a men's college game on the weekends. They're going to try to do, a tournament on Saturday and on Sunday. They're going to try to do 3-day qualifiers. These guys are hustling. I mean, some people actually do it for a living.
Mike, tell us a little bit about, because I found this fascinating when you and I first chatted about it. Tell us a little bit about your personal career.
So I am probably the world's only child abuse lawyer by day and volleyball referee by night. I have a job that, volleyball stuff. It definitely, keeps it real for me. Gives me something to look forward to because, my job is tough. We're putting the bad guys away. We're making sure that, kids are safe. We're pulling them out of crack mom houses. So yeah, we're doing a lot.
I appreciate that, and I envy that gig. I could probably speak for everybody on the panel. I've never met anyone who has that kind of a day job and then goes and hears crap from college coaches about bad calls all night and is able to still keep their sanity in check. So kudos to you, man. That's really awesome.
So how do you find that balance? Because those are kind of two polar opposites, right? You have a child abuse attorney on one that's kind of, I'm sure, a very high stressful job. And then you go to refereeing juniors that could be fun. So how do you kind of balance those two opposites?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to protect kids during the day, make sure that they're safe. If they're being abused, we're trying to put the bad guys in jail, whatever it is. And then I come to the weekend and, hey, I just want to keep the kids safe, give them a great opportunity to play. It is a great refresher and a good reminder. I mean, every single day I walk in the courtroom, I see kids that are coming from really tough situations. And then I go to the weekend, I see kids, hey, their parents are paying $2,000-$3,000 for the kids just to play volleyball. It's something a little bit different from my day job to my weekend job, but I love it. It keeps me sane.
Yeah, like Justin said, we really appreciate the work, that you do on that end. Being a referee is kind of a thankless job. You have parents yelling at you, you have coaches yelling at you. And for you to have that aggressive full-time job, I'm sure sometimes that attorney wants to come out and it's like, no.
It is. You're right. I mean, hey, my job as a lawyer is to enforce the law. My job as a referee is to make sure everyone's playing by the rules. What I do like about volleyball is we're flexible. We just want everyone to have a good time and play the game.
So one of the things that we wanted to do tonight, and the reason why we have you on at the same time with Jason, is we're all sitting at home thinking of ways to try to come up with more tournaments so that we can make up for the loss, especially if we're discussing like adult nationals, NBA events, all of these things that are being canceled. It's going to cause some conflict. So we're trying to think of solutions as to what we can do. Before we go into that, we'll have Jason just introduce himself, kind of tell everybody what you do, where you're from, and what you got going on.
Well, I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio. About 15 years ago, I made a move out to Las Vegas. And then from Vegas, I migrated down to Florida. I've been running events for about 15 years. I started running events at an arena in Vegas, doing about 250 events a year. Everything from Reba McEntire, Mr. Olympia, I mean, you name it, we did it. Then I had an opportunity in 2014 to start running my own events and just ran with it. Here we are today.
I specifically wanted to have you come on because you and I talk on a pretty regular basis, and we've developed a friendship to kind of like understand that we want to make volleyball, especially from an adult professional level standpoint, awesome. And I think you are a really important piece to that puzzle. So just talk to us about some of the events that we could possibly have this summer if nationals and NBA events are canceled, and kind of where those will take place.
I mean, we have a strong relationship with Caesars Entertainment. So anywhere they have a venue, we can potentially do an event at. The challenge with us is we're not the only show in town. You know, everybody's trying to move dates around because everything has been canceled over the last, 6 weeks. So on our side, it's talking to you guys. You tell us, what works for you guys, where we can all come together, and then we can go out to the hotels and convention centers and
I guess
negotiate with them.
A big question that I would have is, how many courts do you have available to like at any given time, and like how much goes into like preparing for the setup of a tournament? I got to see how much you had to deal with in Atlantic City this year, and I was amazed. I don't think a lot of people, especially parents, club parents, understand how much goes into making these tournaments happen. I hear parents all the time say, like, how come they only have 11 chairs for this court? And it's like, oh my God, you have no idea how much setup that we had to do for this.
We moved to do more events in casinos, and the reason why we moved away from convention center is because they want to nickel and dime you on everything. I mean, one example is they charge you for chairs between $1.50 to $3 a chair. Are we good still?
Yeah, you're good.
Where'd I leave off? The chairs at $1.50, $3 a chair?
Yeah, you have to apparently pay for them.
And the nice thing with casinos, as we experienced in Atlantic City, having a venue connected right to the hotel is huge. We're a little bit different. We try to cultivate a cool experience for everybody, not just trying to charge outrageous amounts of money for entry fees and the gate fee. What Justin was talking about, we took all the club directors and coaches that we invited to Gordon Ramsay Steakhouse and had a nice steak dinner. I don't know a lot of tournament directors that do that or not, but that's something we want to kind of separate ourselves from, to give back to you guys, because without you, we wouldn't have it.
So just to touch on that, a tentative date of May 9th and 10th in Atlantic City is now being planned. Obviously, we have no idea when this coronavirus thing is going to go away or when we're going to be able to do things, but we've already gotten 30-plus clubs. Has that number changed, Jason, over the last day or two?
We're probably about 40.
So 40-plus clubs interested in playing in Atlantic City. And then I brought up the idea of us running some adult tournaments like we did for the event earlier this season in January. The amount of things that are being canceled and the lack of volleyball, I think if for whatever reason that weekend became available to people being socialized again, I think it would be a huge hit. And I think if we put it out there now and get an idea for it, I think it could be a really, really good opportunity, especially if Nationals is still happening. That's a really good warm-up tournament. So I'm very hopeful about that. Everything in my life has been stopped, as far as volleyball goes. And it's like we're sitting here every day trying to figure out ways, once this is back on, how can we make up for all that lost time? That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this podcast and talk to people, was because I want to hear what their ideas are and what they think we might be able to do or what they don't think.
Man, I mean, nobody really knows. So, courthouses are closed for another week. Schools are out. Some people say, hey, it's gonna pass. We're gonna be okay. We just heard Easter is our goal. But at the same time, you've heard from school districts that have canceled their entire school year and they're doing remote learning. So who really knows?
The tournament's going to be interesting because, USAV is desanctioning events. I'm not sure the route the AAU is going. But Jason, have you run into any issues as far as convention centers or hotels that are kind of weary to even plan something like this because of everything that's going on?
That's an understatement. Yeah, nobody wants to get into a position where, they're signing the contract and then they're on the hook for, and they're liable for it. Like Mike said, we don't know what to do. I mean, nobody does. And every region is different. SoCal region is still going. Texas is still going. But GBA, the OVR, they closed up for the years. There's nothing unified across the board. To answer your question about AAU, they made an announcement that April 1st, they're back up and running live. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but that's where they're at right now.
I think USA said April 15th is what I think.
April 15th. I know the The Red Rock Rave out in Las Vegas, their event is Mother's Day weekend out in Vegas. That's the Southern California region. That's still on the books.
Big South rescheduled to June 5th and 7th. NEQ still hasn't. They said it's postponed. They haven't released a date. Same thing. I think Lone Star released it. I think it may conflict with adult nationals though. So that's going to be interesting on how that affects their teams registered when those adults are playing.
Do you guys think that USA Volleyball at large is going to make a statement that is we're postponing dates and these events to X time? Or are they going to say something like at this date we'll reevaluate, right? Because some events are choosing a new start date and some events are saying in however many weeks we'll let you know. Like, what do you think the larger plan is here?
I just think, hey, if you look at what's going on, everyone is just reactionary instead of being proactive. Everyone's saying, oh, hey, this governing body is shutting down this qualifier is postponing, this qualifier is canceling their event. And then as soon as that happens, then you got another one saying something very similar. And it's tough because nobody wants to take that responsibility. Who wants to, bring these kids in, then they go and see, grandma and grandpa, and then next thing you know, they're sick. It's a hard decision.
What do you guys think is the alternative for the decision that the Olympic Committee made? Pushing the Olympics back a year, do you think there was another alternative they could have went with?
They just took the safest route, it seemed like. If I was hosting a global event, I'd probably do the same thing, especially where the location was at too.
I think part of the reason why it was just safer to go with the full year is because we don't know how long this whole process with the coronavirus is going to take. Say it gets delayed a couple months. Now we're moving into different seasons. You can't have these guys play in different conditions of that. What if it starts getting cooler outside and those outdoor events are no longer being played on the even playing field? I just think going the full year was the safe move. And sometimes the safe move is the best move.
Canada was actually the first country, I think, say, if you host this, we're not coming. And then everybody else kind of said, oh, all right, well, if you guys are willing to do that, we'll kind of do the same. The big one is the NBA, right? Once the NBA canceled their season, everybody had lost their shit. They were like, oh my God, the whole world is over. The NBA stopped. Like, that hasn't happened since Space Jam. Up until like 5 days ago, we were still going to have our NBA event in Las Vegas. We were going to still do it. It just came down to most of the players feeling uncomfortable with attending, and I'm not going to force any guys to show up to something that they don't feel good about going to. I really appreciate you guys coming on. We're going to do this pretty frequently throughout the next week or so since we have nothing else to do. Sometimes it'll be a little bit more serious like it was tonight, and a lot of times it won't. I wanted to get some higher level opinion from you guys, and I think the information that you've given to us is really awesome, and I hope everybody enjoys it. So thank you.
I do have like a little bit of a more casual question from a refereeing perspective. I feel like when I go to these big tournaments, I see the same refs all the time. I don't know if it's hard to come by new officials or if it's hard to convince people to start officiating. Do you think that there's a barrier to recruiting new officials? And do you think it's difficult to do that? Why are people potentially not willing to jump into the officiating? Do you think there's a barrier to that?
There's a couple reasons. Number one, do you want half the people in the gym to be mad at you all the time? It's tough. You got to deal with some crazy coaches every once in a while. Every time the ball's spinning, it's going to be a double. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think also the fact that you see the same people over and over again, I think that's really telling, right? That it means that there's not enough of us. How many of us do you see? You see them come to your court and you're like, uh-oh, it's that guy again. Is there ever a time when you're like, oh God, thank you for bringing this guy, That's not a lot of times, right?
So what can we do to change that? Like, other than, all right, we're going to pay these guys X amount of money. Like, what other things can we do to encourage people to officiate?
We struggle as referees with that ourselves. Because, do you think that we want to referee 9 or 10 games in a day? No. We want to do like 5 or 6 and get out of there. Right? Just like you. If we're up reffing and there's a player that's down reffing, we're going to say, hey, you do a nice job. Maybe you should consider doing this. If you're not going to play college volleyball, maybe, you want to call lines at your college. Maybe we can get you as a referee for high school or juniors ball. Do a great job, learn the basics, and then move on up.
I do love that when referees take the time to speak to the boy or girl that's doing the second officiating and say like, hey, you're doing a great job, or maybe think about this. I think that interaction is super important for, the growth of the kid, right? Not even from a volleyball perspective, but from like a human to human interaction. I think those kids get a lot out of refs that are willing to go that extra mile and say like, you did a great job here. Think about this next time. So every time I see that, I absolutely love that interaction.
I was at a tournament this year, actually. I had an official. He was an African-American older guy. I've seen him before. He looks like a straight-up basketball dude. I love this guy. He's awesome. One of my girls was doing lines, and she kept talking to her mom while she was doing lines. And this ref blew the whistle at her and said, come here. If you're not going to pay attention, I'm going to get somebody else to do lines. And I love that because now if I'm the team that's playing, I'm going to go, okay, I'm getting a fair fight here. I'm getting that situation that I'm looking for, and this referee knows what they're doing. The interaction with the kids needs to be a little bit more frequent, and it also needs to be sometimes super positive and sometimes a little bit more disciplinary. And then the other thing that I wanted to say, I think if we're more proactive as a volleyball community in telling officials that they can't be sensitive, that will help young officials getting into the officiating part of the game. I find a lot of officials really sensitive. They're so sensitive to what, like a coach stands up and goes, and boom, yellow card. Like, chill out. I'm just fighting for my team and letting my parents know that I am doing my job. I've never heard a parent say, I love the coach that just sits there on the bench and says nothing. That's not a thing. They want that coach to be up on the sideline and interacting. And when you let a referee know, like, hey, you might have saw it that way, but I saw it a different way, the parents love that. So it's if referees understand that part of the game, I feel like the tension will be so much less from the beginning, and I think it'll help.
I came from a player's background, right? So I was the guy yelling at the referee all the time. I knew it wasn't personal. I knew, hey, I'm gonna say my piece. I'm gonna let you know that you blew that call, right? And don't do it again. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
When I started playing volleyball, there were some officials out there that were really, really good. But now I just feel like it's gotten significantly worse, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. What I mean by the officiating's gotten worse is not the actual knowledge of the rules. The sensitivity levels are just so high. A justifiable response to me doing this would be like a referee on the stand going, what do you want? Like, that would be fine. Now we're having fun. As soon as they start like, sit down and stop talking, as soon as you get up, it's just like, dude, relax.
Mike and I talk about this all the time because we're running out of referees, especially if there's tournaments on the same weekend. I coach at a community college in Ohio, and what we're trying to do with our girls in the off season is train them, get them certified as referees so they can start making potential extra scratch in the off season. Some of the bigger clubs, like Justin with yours, will side out, with your alumni. Maybe they're seniors or they're freshmen in college. You get them certified, and then they can make some extra money because it needs to start there because there's a limited supply of referees, and to be honest, they're dying. I mean, they're just getting old.
No, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Maybe you can touch a little bit upon what that process is becoming a referee. If anybody may do that. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I would like to ref," but they just don't know the process.
I mean, any tournament, come up and talk to one of the referees about how they did it. But it is really easy. I assume you're talking about USA Volleyball. You would go to the website. Most of the websites have something, hey, I want to be a referee. And they'll tell you the procedure, take a test, get rated. It scares off a lot of people who say, I got to get rated, I got to get observed. But hey, we want to work with you. We're not going to put you on any matches that you're not able to handle. So yeah, you take a test, get observed, do your clearances, and you're good to go.
We've been joined by Chris in the bottom over there. Hey, Chris, how are you? Just before we throw it over to Chris and chat with him a little bit, I got one more question from a tournament director perspective, from a referee perspective. Let's hear like a horror story from a ref with an interaction with a ref or as a ref. What's some outlandish interaction that you've had recently, or just one that off the top of your head?
Putting me on the spot here.
I got one while you guys think. I got a really good one while you guys think.
Chris, please.
I'm watching NVL. This is probably 2014, maybe 2015. It's Eric Zahn and Skylar McCoy. I think they're in the semifinal or quarterfinal. It was game 3. I think Skylar or the ref maybe blew a call. It was a tough one, You know how it goes. Maybe it hit the line, maybe it didn't. That made it 14-13. Against Eric and Skylar. I think Skylar maybe muttered a curse word. Immediately, game over, ref ended it.
Red card.
No
game
way.
over.
Wow.
You can't be doing that. Maybe early in the game. It's brutal if you do that.
It's funny you said that because, me and Justin actually at a regionals one year experienced that with the club. It was the third set. It was 14-13. This club was down. The official made a call that The coach didn't like. He got up, said a couple curse words, boop, red card, and that lost them the bid.
Get a bid to go to nationals.
That lost them the bid.
A ref should not be making the call to end it if it's not going to be a volleyball play.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
Mike, as an official, do you have an opinion of that? I don't want to stir the pot too much, but
no, I want to stir the pot.
Stir it.
Stir it.
All right, so let me ask you a question. Do NFL refs call pass interference with 1 second left?
Yeah, but did they call "you cursed at me"?
They did, I think.
That's tough, man.
It's tough. I mean, because you're stepping inside to like the minds. Maybe he was like frustrated or frazzled.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like,
I mean, it happens. It happened this year. I think it was maybe Seton Hall. They lost a match on a red card game point.
Yeah, Jesus.
It shouldn't happen. That's what I'm saying. I think you have, as a referee, it's your job to let volleyball decide it.
Unless like Bobby Knight's throwing a chair, and then like maybe.
If I'm the ref, I will remove a coach before I end a game on a penalty to a coach.
Absolutely.
Jay, they try to kick you out, right?
Oh yeah, so I I got a double yellow in Winterfest this year, and the referee came down off the stand, walked across the court, came up to me. No social distancing issues at that time. Still in January. She goes, "You're done. You've been eliminated. You have to leave. You've been ejected." And I looked at her and I said, "You don't know the rules. You don't know the rules."
Isn't that a yellow-red simultaneously?
It's not anything.
I don't know what a double yellow
No,
is.
there's no double yellow, but isn't an expulsion?
I don't know why you have 2 yellow cards in your pocket.
Yeah. The main official came over, talked to her for about 4.5 seconds, walked over to me and goes, "I'm so sorry that happened. We're just going to play on. We're just going to keep going."
Justin has to remember this game. This is easily the most memorable match I've ever played in. It was the day of my father's funeral. And unfortunately, Justin also, his roommate, he was your roommate, right? Aaron?
Yeah.
He passed away the same week as my dad's funeral. So we're playing Hunter. We had just gotten slapped 2 sets. We were down 2 sets to none. Now we're down to the 4th set. They're up 24 to maybe like 22. So we win the next 2 points. And now we're just battling point after point. Our bench is going nuts because this game means something to all of us. This is probably the most emotional match I've ever been a part of. Our bench erupts on 1 point, and we get yellow carded. And I'm like, what is the yellow card for? The official goes, "Because you guys are getting too excited. You're not allowed to get that excited."
No. He said in a Spanish accent, "Everybody's yelling now loud." Jorge, one of our setters, he's Cuban, he's Hispanic, and he goes, "Everybody's getting too excited." We got a yellow card because everyone was excited.
I remember saying to the ref, I was just like, we literally just came down from 22-24. Like, we were done. Match was over. Now we're like at 26-26, and you're telling me my team's too excited?
That happened to us a couple of times this past season in the girls during the girls season, to the point where the referee actually said, "You know what? If you guys are going to be that loud, look at the wall. Cheer at the wall."
We love you guys. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully you'll jump back on again soon. We hope to see you guys soon. And please keep us up to date with any news that you hear or find out.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Please. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Man, I bet we could talk about refereeing forever.
Yeah. That could have went on.